Oh,
All righty, bow hunters, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here online, I've got Mr. William Platell. Welcome, sir.
how are you, mate?
I'm very good, man. We started chatting. It must have been probably 2.5, 3 years ago now. I'd say we started chatting online. You had set up shop in out near Bow Desert, I believe, was kind of your last location.
Yeah, so that was pretty much the last location. I think when we were first started talking, I was up in Kalanga.
That's
I
right. That's
yeah,
right.
I
You
first
were.
first started tiny little section under the house. It was only like a 3 by 3 meter area under the house that we were in.
So how long ago was that? What reference point is that?
Oh, that was a fair whack ago. Holy
Was
hell.
that 21 or 22?
That was 23. Like
20.
we started talking probably way before that because I think I sent you a video of my young fella saying how much he wanted to be a bow hunter after listening to your stuff endlessly.
Yeah. I think I had to apologize about the swear words.
Eh, he's heard
Yeah.
them all.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we got chatting a while ago, and pretty much it was very interesting because you were very fresh into the taxidermy stuff, and I was very intrigued by it, and I still am. It's something that kind of goes hand in hand, obviously, with the hunting, but at the same time, I think you had only just kind of got into bow hunting as well at the same time, hadn't you? When you found the taxidermy stuff.
Yeah, so I was basically just getting back into bow hunting because I'd done it previously, like years before, but I
Hmm.
kind of hung it up and just kind of went about life kind of got in the way of doing anything that I wanted there. But with me kind of reconnecting with taxidermy and that and really starting to get back into doing more of it and doing mounts and stuff like that, I kind of hit the wall where I'm like, I really want to start bow hunting again because I love the challenge of it. It was so
Definitely.
much more intricate than just, you know, sitting on the back of a ute. Oh, look, there's one bang. Oh, I got it.
Definitely. Yeah, I understand. I understand definitely. So take us back. Where did it all begin? When did you actually start first hunting and doing that side of things? Did you grow up in a family that was hunters or yeah, where did it start?
Oh, well, mostly it started with my brother. So yeah, I showed quite a bit of interest with hunting and everything like that. Started going out with my brother, knocking over a couple of hares here and there, and then that moved up to chasing pigs with him over at my brother-in-law's property. Um, and yeah, it all just kind of grew from there, and I got into the more intricate sides of it. So he kind of stuck with, just going out. He was dogging pigs and just going spotlighting and that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I really wanted to try and learn the more intricate parts of it, of all the pieces, and that's what led me into doing skull mounts and taxidermy in the early stages, and that was 16 odd year ago when I really started doing skull mounts, so Euro cleaning and everything like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so you're just doing for yourself or for others as well?
at the start, it was more just for myself and just trying to teach myself. But
Hmm.
then word kind of got out that I did a half decent job, and people were like, "Hey, I'll bring in this, I'll bring in that," and basically slowly started getting into that. Started doing a little bit of tanning here and there.
Hmm.
But probably my biggest customer in those early days was my brother. I No, it was easy for him because he got a lot of free Euro mounts, and I got to learn how to do them properly.
Definitely. Yeah. So
Uh,
let's start there then because I mean a good euro is actually a pretty hard thing to do in a sense. I mean it's not, but it is because you do have to boil it right. You have to make sure you don't overboil it, and then to clean it up and actually make it look nice and white and stay white for a long time is
yeah.
somewhat tricky. I mean
Mm.
you can do it straight and you can do it right, but at the same time I think you can stuff it up very quickly if you do it wrong. So give
Oh,
us some. Give us some tips on the Euros to start with. What have you found is kind of like a good go-to a home job versus the proper job as to what you guys do essentially in the shop?
well, really, there's not a whole lot of difference in between what a lot of people do at home and what I do in the shop. Basically, it's the same thing. Really, it's just starting with getting that skin off the top of it. Once you get all that done, you're all sweet. Anything with antlers, you got to make sure you wrap them. So
Hmm.
I always wrap with like clear, bloody, what's it
Cling
called?
wrap.
The clear tape? Yeah, cling wrap.
Yep.
I'll wrap the absolute hell out of them with that. I'll go over the top of that with electrical tape and then wrap them in alfoil just to stop any kind of heat from damaging the antlers. Because with some of them, I do still boil over a fire. I do have a big electric boiler, but mate, that draws some power.
I can imagine.
Yeah, basically sitting them down in there, getting them to the point where the skin on the top of so you'll have the bridge of the nose and all that coming down. Once that skin really starts to split and peel, I'll pull them out, I'll go through and I'll hit them with a gurney. And that really blows a lot of that big chunky stuff off.
Yeah.
And you can focus, you can sit there and blow all day. And as you know, sometimes you won't get all of it off. And then, it's pretty easy to move on to the whitening from there. So once you've gotten pretty much everything off, you blow out every little hole, every nook and cranny. There's these little sections. I actually should have grabbed one of my skulls to do this. But these little sections underneath, they're called the auditory bowl. These little, where the ear canal goes in. And you just kind of, oh, yeah, here we go.
Lost the tusk.
Oh, no. Yeah, so those little orbs that you see just underneath where the atlas joint goes in.
Oh, let me see if I can spin those two there.
Yep, those two right there. So where the ear canal goes in, you jam a screwdriver in there and pop them out and just kind of ream that out a bit, and that you can jam a gurney down in there and it cleans out the brain a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
And especially with pigs, on the back of the head, the very back of it, up in the top there, where you've got that little bit of a grease patch there, there's basically a void behind there. So I drill a hole in the back of that to allow the hot water and the peroxide to get in there, and that really helps clean that out.
Yeah, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
then the brains thing's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
the amount of fat and brain cells that I've had on my front lawn at different times, at different houses as I moved as well. Definitely very interesting.
It's a well-fertilized area.
It is, but yeah, if you don't knock out those parts, which I only just learned, it takes a long time to spray them out. That's for sure. You often get gunk all over you as well if you're trying to spray from the one hole.
The amount of times I have been looking down into a brainstem and squirted the gurney into it, and it's just gone.
Yeah.
And the next 5 minutes are spent going. It's not too bad when they're super fresh, but my God, when they've been sitting in a paddock for a week or on the back of someone's ute and they're covered in disco rice.
God. I wasn't feeling sick, but now I am. No. Yeah, nothing wrong with a bit of bush rice, right? They get in there quickly.
It's all protein.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Okay. And so are you in the whitening side of things, you're chucking it straight back into the boiler then, depending on if it's got anything, if it's got bits and pieces left on it, you're going to chuck it back in the boiler to do the whitening, or are you keeping it out?
No, so I then go into the whitening straight from the boil. So you'd knock off as much as you can with the gurney.
Yep.
Everything else will be picked up in the boil, in the whitening, sorry. So I use a mix of just cream peroxide developer that you get from like Hair House Warehouse.
Yep.
I've only ever eyeballed it. I've never measured it or anything like that. It's just about that. Yeah, about that. I wish I had actual measurements to give you, but I don't. But any leftover cartilage or sinew or anything like that in that peroxide mix is going to turn yellow, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to see when you blast it off the second time. Because I bring my whitening mix to a boil.
Yeah.
So as it goes down, I'll sink it in. I'll put everything in cold, turn the heat on. As soon as it comes to a boil, I'll shut the heat, pull it out, give it a gurney, and let it dry.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So anything that's left on it after that will turn like it's a weird yellowy kind of color. And once it's dried, you can just go along and just kind of scrape that stuff off and clean that stuff off, and you'll be left with a really nice clean skull afterwards.
That's so cool. I've only ever used nappy sand to bleach my skulls. Just like a heap spoon, maybe a few spoons of that. It works, but it definitely doesn't do the yellow trick. It bleaches the skull, all right, but I don't think like they're definitely not as white as what they could be. As you said before, there's a little grease stain in it. On all of my heads, there's parts of them where it just hasn't got into it, probably as well as what I would think a peroxide probably would do, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, there at the end of the day, it is still just a natural product. So every skull's going to be different. You can try and get them museum quality white, but a lot of them you just struggle to do that. And if you try and try and try again, you're going to end up with really white, chalky kind of bone. It's just going to fall apart and it's not going to be good. So you're better
Mm.
off leaving it a little bit more of a natural bone color than trying to go all the way up to white.
Yeah, okay.
So
Makes sense.
that that's a big thing with a lot of them is I'll get people call me up and they'll be like, "Hey, this doesn't look like as white as it can be. It's not like A4 white. And it's a bone. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it is still just a bone, and I can take it to marble white if you really want, but just be prepared for in 6 months, a year's time for that thing to fall off the wall and shatter like a
Shatter.
glass."
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's no structure left in it. All those little bits on top of the cranium that's all holding that together, they've all just been eaten away. So there's nothing really holding it together.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So sorry, I kind of actually interrupted you there in the sense of what you were telling us about getting into actual hunting and taxidermy side of things. So
Yeah.
16 odd years ago, started getting into more of doing the Euros, and then where did it go from there?
Um, Basically it kind of stagnated like that. So I bought, DVDs on taxidermy, I bought books on taxidermy. I would spend my as much time as I could on our dial-up broadband, trying to load YouTube videos on how to mount things, how to do as much as possible, and just trying to learn. And
Wow.
yes, so it was really I'd spent 16 years, well, 15 years learning, and the last 2 years have been nothing but trying to do the best mounts possible.
Mm.
And it was quite funny when I originally did the course that I did after getting out of the army. They're like, "Hey, we'll set you up with this. You can find a course." And I went, "Sweet, we'll do that." Got up, did the course, and the bloke I did it with, he's like, "So you already had a pretty good idea of what you were doing. So why'd you spend the money and come here and do this?" And I'm a practical learner. If I'm going to try and do something properly, I want someone to show me to do it first, and then I can figure my own little ways how to make it easier or better or this or that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just a lot of years of learning and trying and like failing miserably and having some animals come out look like they were born from hell. The first animal I actually tried to mount was an eel, which was a horrible mistake of mine. It basically came out looking like a green sausage roll with some demonic head. It was hideous.
That's hilarious. How do you even do like an eel or a fish now? Like, how does that even work?
Well, knowing what I know now, I need to I need to spend a lot more time actually studying the animal, studying the carcass and everything first. So
Mm.
after de-sliming it, I'd go through, cut like skin out one side. So I'd make a cut down one side of it, peel it to the fin, peel it to the fin, go through, and I'd get measurements on sizes on it down
Mm.
its body, work up into the head and cut the head off. A lot of people will cast the heads, so they'll just trim around the skin and cast their own head and just attach it on later.
Yeah.
But really, a lot of it is in the prep work. It's just getting your measurements right, knowing your animal. Like you spend so much time just reading books and looking at pictures. Like everyone thinks I'm weird because I go straight to the picture book version of area in QBD because I'm just looking at pictures of animals all through the books and that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just knowing what you're working on is the big thing. Which one thing I'm kind of graced with where we just bought the house here in Arachula is I'm kind of in the heart of deer country here. So I've got a
Mm.
lot of properties where I can see red deer and see how they act, how they move, how they hold their ears, their head movements, their like the way they hold their bodies, their
Mm.
muscle structure. And it's all anatomy and learning. And yeah, I just love it.
Yeah,
Plus I
it's
can
so it's
watch
so
animals all
fascinating.
day. So
Not a bad little gig, right? I just honestly I didn't know that with the fish side of things, and I don't know if it is the same, but For all fish, do you take the skin and you take it all from the actual fish, or do you preserve something else and use it usually? Or is that just an eel thing because the skin is so thick?
Well, you pretty much you can do it with all fish.
Mm,
A lot of people these days are moving towards the reproduction. So
mm.
they'll make a cast of the entire fish. They'll make a mold for that fish, and
Okay,
then
yeah, that's
they'll
what
make
I've probably seen more of. Yeah.
yeah, and then they'll make a fiberglass reproduction of that. And like the paintwork on them is incredible.
Mm.
Excuse me. The paintwork on it is like phenomenal. They do incredible paintwork, but they're not using the full skin of the fish or the head of the fish.
No,
And
yeah, nothing's
it's
preserved as such.
exactly, yeah. So a lot of guys these days are moving towards doing the fiberglass because it's a lot less kind of time consuming in a way.
Hmm.
But I haven't learnt to do fish properly yet, so I'm not gonna like
Delve into that too much. No, it's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pretend like I'm an expert on fish or birds.
I
So
really find like taxidermy is such an art form though, right? Like, were you an artistic person beforehand, or did it come because of animals and the love for animals?
it was kind of part and parcel. It was one and the same really because I always loved sketching, loved drawing,
Mhm.
just doing that kind of artsy thing. I failed just about every art class I ever took in high school. But I was good with working with my hands. So when it came to, figuring out how to do things, it was good. But I started off drawing animals a fair while ago and just, trying to figure out how they move
Mm.
because I had an enjoyment of the animal itself and I wanted to learn how to do taxidermy in that. It was kind of like a crossover where, hey, if I learn how to do this really good, I could, swing that into doing this really good. So I've always been a fan of any kind of art.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so at what point did you actually, you said you went into the army, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
How long were you in the army for?
Unfortunately, only 3 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did try to stay in as long as possible, but after having a pretty interesting shoulder injury, they just kind of went, off you go.
Yeah, got you.
Right.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so after that, how long was it, or was it during that time that you picked up a bow or a gun to go hunting again, or when was the reintroduction of hunting for you?
Well, it was during physio one day. I was getting some physio done with my shoulder, and we were going through some exercises. And he's like, "Okay, just get your resistance band in your hand and just do some of that."
Archipels, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Huh," and my brain just kind of tweaked, and it went, "Hey, you could do this at home if you wanted to, but with
Mm.
the real thing." And so that's where I kind of just picked it back up, and I went, right, I'm going back. I'm getting a bow, so I bought a bow off my mate for $100,
Yeah, good.
and it was not in any great way. I had to basically go through and get everything new on it just so I could use it. And picking up the bow again really helped my physio more than just about anything.
Yeah,
Um,
wow.
yeah, just because I'd spend all afternoon out there, I'd be practicing my shots, getting everything right, and each time I had to, kind of reset my shoulder to where I could pull back. So after even a couple of months of doing that, I went back to the physio, and he said like your stabilization in your shoulder has improved incredibly. Like this is
Mm.
cool. What are you doing? And I just kind of filled him in. It's like it works.
Good. No, there's definitely a lot of muscles and intricate muscles that we use, right? That you don't even think about until you have to, or unless you're a physio or
Yeah,
someone who is fascinated by anatomy, then you don't really ever think about those small little bits and pieces that you have to use. And if you're not using them correctly, you can also do injuries and whatever. It's why you hear people doing the overuse injuries from doing archery.
yeah,
I'll often get people reach out to me like, "Hey man, this happened. I was just shooting my bow and I've got now a sore shoulder. I've heard you talk about it a few times. What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not a physio, so go see a physio first." But I definitely know some good exercises that can help out with it. But you still have to have an actual an understanding of what's going wrong first, right? Like it can't just be
yeah,
this is sore. Like
yeah, yeah. You
okay,
can't just be like
yeah, the
that.
shoulder, yeah, the whole
Fix all of that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. And then how long was it until you actually got out shooting with the bow?
um, It was probably around 8 months until I built up to probably working around that. I think it was 55, 60 pound.
Mm.
And I was confident, like, yeah, 100% I can go out. I can see if I can get a pig with this.
Yeah.
And that was quickly coming up to my first actual rut. And I was like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a crack. And yeah, got out there and I ended up smacking a couple of pigs. And that did it for me. As soon as I got those on the ground, my brain just went, oh, and it just opened me up. I went, yeah, no, this is me. I'm good.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it is interesting, right? It's like it does flick a switch, and it is something that does feel very innate and just like calling back to. You're like, oh wow, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just the technicality of it, having to sneak up, having to know which way, constantly fighting the wind because
Mm-hmm.
the property that I hunt is in a big, big bowl.
Yeah,
And
I know
so,
that too well.
oh, mate, the wind
When
is,
you
yeah,
finally think it's all just going to happen, you're like, yes, this is like it couldn't be any better. And then
yeah,
all of a sudden, the wind does its thing.
yeah, and something goes, hello,
Yeah,
it's
see
gone.
ya.
Yeah,
And so at this point, had you kind of got back into the taxidermy when you got those pigs? Was this like oh, I've shot my
yeah,
own pigs, I now want to taxidermy them?
yeah. So that was just coming. That was quite literally just before last year's taxidermy competition.
How cool. Yeah.
And I was out there to try and get something because I didn't have anything ready to take down there.
No way.
And so, yeah, I was stressing because I was like, I've joined this thing. I want to do it. I'm ready to go. And yeah, we ended up, the owner actually shot a really nice red stag.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my last day out there, so I'd spent a week walking through the bush. I'd seen a few, I'd heard a few, I'd experienced the insanity of hearing a close up roar for the first time. And
So good,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
oh, it's like a drug.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's
The
just, yeah,
dopamine rush.
oh yeah. And yeah, we managed to smack one. Well, his worker, we drove around, hit the cultivation. He shot one, got him on the ground, and I basically spent the next night caping out this deer, getting everything ready for a big half life size mount. And it was a bit ambitious on my side, want to do something like that for my first competition piece or anything like that, but why not? Give it a go.
Definitely. So how long was it from shooting the animal to having to get it ready for the competition? When was the competition?
So I had about a month and a half to get down to the competition, and they need to dry for about a month.
God.
So from me getting that thing on the ground to having it literally putting it in the box and on the back of the ute to go, those two animals, I basically had maybe a week, and a bit.
Yeah.
And that was modifying. So one was just a standard shoulder mount. I was like, yep, sweet, I can do that. Did it. It's on the wall drying. The other one, I needed to build a full backboard, a habitat. I had to modify an elk form so that it would body size down to a red, move the legs, readjust everything, attach the right head. It was a nightmare. And I ended up painting that thing for the competition the night at, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning before I boxed it up and left for Victoria.
Far out. That's insane. And then to cap it off, it was all worthwhile, right? When you got down there, it all paid off in the end.
Yeah, it all paid off quite well. So I went into the novice class because I hadn't entered any competitions, and it was literally my first year mounting an animal.
Yeah.
And so in my section, I pulled out a first. I think I got a score of 93 out of 100.
How good.
And that was for the big half life size boy. And my other one got a second. I think it was an 87.
That's so cool. So big. And so in regards to that, like how many categories are there? What is the whole the competition that you went into?
Yeah, so competition, it's basically part of the OSAWA, so the Australian Association of Wildlife Artistry.
Mm-hmm.
That's our little group.
Yep.
And it's just a national competition where taxidermists from all over the country can come in, and you can be junior. There's junior, novice, open, masters, and then on top of them, you've got game head, you've got life-size mammal, you've got reptile, birds, fish, habitat, artistic, anthropomorphic. Like there's so many different categories in it.
What's anthropomorphic? Oh my gosh, I stuff that word up all the time.
You're doing that.
Yeah. Does it
anthropomorphic? So if you've ever seen like people doing the mice that are doing things like they're mice.
Got you. Okay.
Or,
yeah, makes sense. So mice doing human things or animals doing human things.
Animals doing human things.
I was like, I know the word, I know what it means. I just don't know how it works in the taxidermy realm. So yeah, there you go. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting I can appreciate the art that goes into it and the work that goes into doing them. But I'm a very traditional kind of taxidermist where it's like I do it out of a respect for the animal kind of deal.
Definitely. Preservation of what they were. Yeah.
Yeah, what they were, how they looked, like try and get as much of that life and that expression into the animal as possible so you can walk past every day and be like, yes. So, yeah.
So, how many people go down for it? Like, how big is the event? How many businesses put in for it?
So last year, I think there were 64 entries. This year, I think we topped out at about 57 or 62.
Yep.
There's quite a few people that go down. A lot of them are New South Wales or Victorian. We had one guy drive down from Cairns, absolute mad lad. Yeah. I thought I was driving far with my 1,600 Ks from here down to there, but this guy drove from Cairns all the way down and just nuts.
Yeah, that's hectic.
Yeah. So, but no, there's not a great deal of us really in the industry. Like as a national scale, you look at America, there's probably as many taxidermists in one state as there are in the entire nation of Australia. There's not a whole lot of us around. So I think 1, 2, 3, there's maybe 5 that I know of in Queensland, basically Mackay South.
Far out. Yeah, that is hectic.
Yeah. So, and then as you get further down, you get to New South Wales, there's a few more. Victoria, there seems to be quite a lot of taxidermists down in Victoria, Tasmania, and it's probably just due to a game-rich environment. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have noticed, like, people I've used previously, they're always located around the game-rich areas, right? Like around Stanthorpe, around Gympie, where you're located seems to make a lot of sense. It's just kind of like a drive-through area of the amount of times when I've actually shot an animal and then gone, I would really love this as a cape, actually. Like I should find a taxidermist close by. And then you're trying to find out where they actually are and where they are on the way regards to getting back home as well. Like I don't want to have to drive 5 hours out of the way to make it happen. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense, obviously, to locate yourself somewhere like you're in prime location for me for anywhere south I go because I come straight back past you, essentially.
Yeah.
Where is the new warehouse? It's in Aratula?
Yeah, Aratula, mate. We're pretty much right beside the Caltex and the fire shed. We just bought a place here and had enough room, and my first thought was new shed. So we got that sorted. We've only been in this house or at this place maybe 3 months now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so far I've been that busy, just mainly in the tannery more than anything. The tannery's just insanity. But that's a whole nother story.
Definitely. Well, it was actually it was at Kev Schilt's weekend that he put on in March when we first got to meet up in person. Like we'd talked plenty online, but so when we first got to talk, and that was literally like you just pretty much signed, I think, the contract. We were just about to move. You were like, yeah, within, or maybe you had just moved. It was one or the other.
So it was, I'm pretty sure it was like one of our first weekends in the house.
Got you. Yeah,
Or it was just before we moved. So no, it was the weekend before we moved.
I thought it was just before you moved, yeah.
We were loading up and getting out.
Yeah, far out. And so it's just been go since you moved there pretty much.
100%.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the tannery, why is it so busy? Is it because people are constantly bringing stuff to you, or because you need to have a consistent like keep of skins for your work?
Mainly because I've got a collection. So I do work for about 13 other taxidermists.
Hmm.
I tan all their capes.
Yeah, wow.
So anything that they come in, they send to me, and I go through and do it. But it's kind of gotten to a point where I'm spending so much time working on other people's stuff, and they're putting out pictures of all the mounts that they're doing and all the work that they're doing, and I'm sitting here like I'm just a tanner.
Mm.
And I think it was after the show this year, I sat down with a good mate of mine, and he just said, "Look, do you want to be known as a tanner or a taxidermist?"
Yeah.
And I've basically, this is the first time I'll be putting it out anywhere, but I've made the decision to pretty much shut my tannery down
Yeah,
to
there you
all,
go.
just so I can pretty much offer my clients time to actually work on their stuff, because I've got red deer to do, I've got pigs to do, I've got longhorns, I've got two big longhorns I need to get done.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so
Dude,
yeah.
that's cool. That's awesome. It's awesome to make that step, right? To do like,
Mm.
I mean, it's a good sign of growth within your own business as well. Of okay, well,
Yeah.
we can now shut down this element and we can focus just on this.
Well, yeah, and it was a decision made for the sake of, not only because I'm living on painkillers with my shoulder, having to
Mm.
be in the tannery, because I don't think people realize what goes into actually doing it. I was in the tannery from basically 6:30 in the morning till sometimes 11 or 2 at night,
Wow, yeah.
just just trying to get work done. I'd come in, have a couple of hours sleep, wake up, dose myself up with coffee and Panadol, and then head back out and keep going.
Hmm.
And it was getting to a point where I was pretty much always hurting.
Mm.
I wasn't spending any time with my family because I couldn't, I was too busy, and I wasn't getting any work done for my clients. And I think with all that together, it's probably the best decision I could have made, is to get all this out of the way so that I can focus on building my business in other areas, such as doing the supplies, doing the forms, and then doing all the mounts itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. In regards to the tannery side of things, like you're just doing mass production of it, so you've got big ass drums and stuff, kind of making it all work, or are you doing it on a smaller scale and just having to work through it that way?
Um, as far as tanneries go, I am really, really small scale.
Mhm.
I just have a fleshing beam with my fleshing knife, and I'll work through what I can with that. But apart from that, I've got my fleshing machine, which is just like a 12-inch round knife.
Yeah,
That thing spins on a motor, and I'll just sit there and I'll just take
yeah,
the
yeah,
skin
I have seen
down
that.
from 20, 25 mil thick down to denim jean thick,
Yeah,
so that,
wow.
yeah, basically gives the taxidermist the best opportunity to get put out the best mount that they can, having such thin skins.
Definitely. So it's actually a bit more like a stretchy material rather than it just being a thick,
Yeah.
hard skin, essentially.
Well, yeah, working on like cutting up some of those red deer, their skins are just
Thick, especially on the neck.
incredibly thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's hectic. And so, in regards to if you wanted to start doing more from your own home, which I would like to give tanning a shot at some point in time,
Yeah.
without the knives and all of that side of things, is it still very doable? Like, if you just want to do a carpet and you just want to set it up, like,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So one thing that I put people onto is there's these kits you can get. They're called Leader, LEDER kits.
mm-hmm.
And I use them for all of my early years of doing just goat hides and roost skins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A fantastic little kit for the home tanner, and it's 100%, as long as you have a sheet of plywood to pin it down to, a
Mm-hmm.
staple gun, and one of those tanning kits. Hell, that's you. You're set. You're ready to
Yeah,
go.
wow. There you go. Yeah, I had seen a lot of people using like gurneys and stuff just to get a lot of the flesh off and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I wasn't sure about the whole knife side of things because you see, obviously, I watch a lot of your videos and I've seen a lot of other taxidermists where they do have the big old knife where they drag it down and scrape
yeah.
it out and stuff. And it seems like a lot of extra time and effort that goes into it. That's for sure.
It is. It is. It's something that's nice to have. It's not
Mm,
really needed, but it's just nice to have, especially doing flat skins.
yeah.
Um, Having that fleshing knife, you can just my big round knife, you just thin that neck down. You just, 4 or 5 passes, that neck is down nice and thin, and it's pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, amazing. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I should say this. Every time I go and do a skull or I'm doing something, I'm like, why the fuck do I do this? Like, it takes so much time and effort, and it's like literally it's tedious at times. I find it, and it's cool as an experience. I'm like, I'm glad I did it. But
Yep.
then I get to the other end of it and I go, I don't know if I'm going to do that again. But then I find myself doing it again. Like it's just the
Yep.
thing that keeps
You
popping up.
always come back to it.
Yeah, however, like for instance, the hides, I've never done my own hide. I've just always paid for them. I've always just taken them straight to a taxidermist because I'm like, I was so afraid of slipping, like hair slip and whatever else. And I was like, I'll get the job done properly and then I'll try it out on one later that I wouldn't be too upset if I did lose it completely, I guess maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hair slip isn't something to be super terrified about because like as long as you know how to get something off the animal quickly and you're not taking, 3 rolled roasts worth of meat with it, you're pretty much good. And I know you laugh, but I've had it before.
That's
I had
why
a
it's
bloke,
even funnier.
I had a bloke drop off skin a while ago, and he's like, I know what I'm doing, 100%. I'm all good. I've been doing it for years. I'm like, sweet. I defrosted these skins, unwrapped them, and I would have taken a pile of meat that would
Oh
have been
my
the size of a
God.
basketball off 3 skins. So yeah, if
Oh
you tell
God.
me 100% you know what you're doing, I will question that.
Yeah, understandably. In regards to like, I think one of the hardest things about skinning, in the sense of I've done a fair bit of skinning now, but not skinning for getting hides done necessarily, is the small nicks that you might make along the way.
Yeah.
Are they a big issue or not if someone wants to get a rug bane?
Small nicks aren't the worst thing in the world. Like obviously, if you make a cut, you make a cut. It's not going to completely destroy the whole thing because depending on the skin, you've still got the hair that'll cover up that little nick.
Mm-hmm.
Like even a decent sized bullet hole, that hair will still cover that hole nicely.
Definitely.
But as long as you're not trying to rush through, get it done, and you start making cuts that are, a few inches long, and it just opens up as soon as it starts to dry because it'll shrink. Everything tries to shrink, and that hole will grow from that, and it'll just do that as it's drying.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, okay. And then what's your preferred method, in the sense of how people deliver it to you? Because I have only ever done it where I get the skin off quickly and put it straight into a rubbish bag and chuck it into the freezer without doing any salting whatsoever, based on calling the taxidermist and they said, yeah, do it like that for us. What's your preferred method?
Um, Really either. It doesn't bother me. Ideally for flat skins, they come in salted,
Mm-hmm.
and the person has a way to zip tie like a little tag or something on it. So in my pile, I can be like, "Yep, 100%. I know whose that is." But if you if you do end up bringing it in frozen, as long as it's still cold or still frozen, that's sweet. That's still something that we can work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And it's the same with capes. If you're not 100% certain on face caping or anything like that, I'll happily talk people through it. I'll send them photos, videos, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But ideally, if you can't turn the lips, split the nose, turn the ears and everything, just straight into a freezer. As
Yeah.
cold as possible, as quick as possible.
Yeah. Wow. And then you just essentially go through that process for them.
Yeah, yeah. Once it's defrosted, I'll go through, I'll split the lips, the nose, pull the cartilage out, turn the ears inside out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just do that little process and it's really not that hard.
Yeah. I think it's also because it's such a trophy for so many people, right? When they get to doing it, they don't want to rush it. They don't want to stuff it up. They don't want that to be the thing that undoes this magical, amazing thing that's just happened for them, right? It's like the pinnacle of what they have done with their hunting and such a amazing story to be told for what they have pieced together. And then
Yeah.
they could quickly stuff it up when they're trying to peel the lips or whatever. Like, yeah, flip the ears in and they're like, oh my gosh, I just busted the whole ear off. Like, now what?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you're not confident with it, then just get it to me as quick as possible.
Mm,
As long as you call me, I'm not super stressed about, you rocking up to the house at 6:30 at night. As long as you call ahead and it's not 2 o'clock in the morning, then I might be a bit annoyed. But if you're not confident, call me. I'll talk you through it. If you're still not 100% on it, then just chuck it in the back and get it to me as quick as possible. Especially on cold nights, it's super easy to just travel with these things because you've got the air going through it, you've got the coolness there. But on hot days, I've had people literally have a whole deer unskinned, just sitting in the back of their ute. They'll drive around, they'll show all their mates and everything. Then they get here. Sweet, when'd you shoot it? Oh, like 7 o'clock last night, and it's now 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, fire.
I was like, don't even bother unloading it, mate. It's not worth anything now. Or I get them to just cut the head off, and I go and find them a fresh skin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So spare capes are a thing that we can do. It is something we do offer. It's an extra little charge.
Definitely. And in regards to that, like in that sense, you're saying it's no point unloading it because the skin will all just slip. Is that the concept there?
So basically on hot days that skin will slip pretty quick. On deer, like generally anything that eats grass, herbivores, anything like that, it's not too bad. But when you get into pigs, foxes, dogs, my general rule is if you can't get that, if it's a warmish night, and a couple of hours is your limit.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so some people will stretch it out. You can stretch it out a little bit further, but for the best opportunity, get that thing into a freezer as soon as you've shot it and bring it to me. I'll deal with it here.
There you go. So you can't find a big red fox on the side of the road and take it to a taxidermist and expect anything good to happen.
Well, yeah, pretty much. That was one of the first foxes I ever did. Was a bloke had that. It got hit out the front of his house, and he found it the next morning as he was bringing the cows in. And he called me up, and he's like, "Can you do anything with it? How long it's been there?" "Oh, about 12 hours. Don't even bother picking it up." "Oh, I'm already on the way to yours." "Dump it out and go home."
Oh, that's funny. So, I mean, what has been some of your favorite animals you've been able to do so far then?
Probably pigs, to be honest. Like these guys, they're just fun to work on.
Okay.
I love the intricacy of doing like the inner mouth detail, all the nose detail, everything like that. There's always going to be something different. No two pigs are really the same. But coolest one. It'd probably have to be the half life size red deer that I did for the comp. Just because it was just a cool animal to do, and I saw that whole process through from watching it get shot in the paddock, skinning it out at the farmhouse. I took all the meat off that animal, and it came home, and me and my family were eating venison for months.
That's awesome.
And then having it mounted in the show, and it's still in the workshop now. I need to do some cleaning up on it. It's a little dusty. But to be able to walk into my shop every day and look at it and be like, that's what really kicked this for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's so cool. In regards to maintenance after an animal like that, like you just said, it's just a bit dusty, but is there anything else that you should be doing in the sense of like to really look after your mounts or your euros or anything like that?
Best bet is every now and again, just pull them down, give them a dust off, give them a blow off. If you got like a hair dryer or just a little air gun or something, just really light pressure, just hold it a bit away and just try and get some of that dust off. Give them a little wipe down. If they do need a good wipe, use just a damp cloth, like a tea towel or something. Just wet it, squeeze as much water out as humanly possible, and just give it a little wipe over the hair. Go with the hair, and then just really just try and keep them clean out the noses and that, because spiders can build up in the noses, and then that will attract other bugs, and then eventually, next thing you know, stuff can go sideways real quick once you've got bugs in. And once you have bugs, there's only really one good way to get rid of them, and not a whole lot of people have the facilities to put an entire animal mounted into a freezer for yeah, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's full on. And so essentially, obviously, like a bug spray or something like that is just not going to be any good for it either.
it's not the worst.
Mm,
It's not going to help long term, but every now and again, just even if you have one of those, what are they like, the Airwick wall ones? If you have
yeah,
a trophy room, just have one of them up there, and it's just like a dispersant
yeah,
bug spray.
yeah.
Just get one of them and just have that in your room. It will help keep down any kind of bugs that will get in there.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I had my Euro in the sun a lot at my last place, and a fair few people warned me that it would essentially go pale like the other one. So in
yeah,
the background here, I've got a sun-kissed head versus a head that was not sun-kissed, and yeah, a fair few people were trying to warn me like, hey, make sure you move it away from there because it will bleach itself essentially.
yeah.
It didn't go. Oh, I can't tell that it's gone lighter at all, and it seems to be fine in the new house completely. But how much do you need to think about that stuff in the sense of like seeing where the sunlight is in that room and how much light is going on to each animal mount?
Quite a bit. So especially when it comes to mounts, your hair is always gonna bleach and whiten faster than any other part.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could have a big, beautiful red stag, thing's amazing, it's got a beautiful coat on it. You sit it directly next to a window that gets that afternoon sun, and the whole face gets covered in sun every afternoon. Over a while, you'll start to notice that one side of that deer is going to be a lot whiter and start to fade a lot more
Yeah.
than the other side. And it's a constant thing. So if you do have a trophy room, ideally blackout curtains in there,
Mhm.
have just lights in there. Don't try and rely on skylights or anything like that because UV can absolutely destroy like mounted animals really quick.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It makes a lot of sense. Like it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. I just hadn't thought of it really much myself beforehand.
Yeah, well, it's like people putting them out on the back veranda. You
Mm,
see a lot of the old boys out there, they've just got them sitting out the back and the skin's starting to fall apart, the hair's all faded, there's bugs all through it, and it's just that's something that could have been easily avoided just by hell, put it in your lounge room.
yeah, definitely.
So
Might have just come with a divorce ticket as well.
that's all he's got left.
Yeah. No. Um, Talking of trophy rooms, something interesting happened for you recently, right? Where you had someone approach you about their safari room, essentially, and all of the stuff that they had involved in it. What was the story behind that? Because I can't quite remember everything. I just remember some of the animals you were telling me about, and yeah, pretty cool.
Oh, so yeah, that was actually the bloke from across the road here. He he's an old boy, used to do lots of trips over to Africa and everything like that. Um, and basically his mind's kind of gone a little bit. So the kids were cleaning out the house to sell, and me moving in, they found out I was a taxidermist. I went over there and got talking, and I walked into this trophy room, and my brain just went, "Wow!" The first thing you see when you walk, so you're walking down the hallway, you come to a door, you turn, you go down these steps, and the first thing you see when this door opens is a life-size lion standing there staring.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, that's cool. So we're starting with that. You turn straight left, there's a life-size leopard right there. And then the walls are just covered. So there's everything from, Cape buffalo, waterbuck, kudu, wildebeest. Um, he had just a massive collection of birds and everything in there. He had books upon books upon books. And just the book collection alone, that was the big thing that I wanted. And they were trying to get it off to an auction. And
Mm.
basically, I don't think I came in with an offer that they were really, really happy with. And I still don't know what they've done with them. But there were books in there that, from the late 1800s that were bound in rhino skin,
Holy.
like just incredible pieces in this collection. That's something that I absolutely love is walking into other people's trophy rooms and
Mm.
just because this is something I love. I absolutely adore doing this.
Yeah.
Being able to walk into someone else's trophy room and look at this is basically a portrait of someone's life, their hobby of
Of
their
what
whole
they've
life.
done.
And you
Yeah.
go, this is amazing.
That's insane. Do you know much of his story? Like, was it all rifle shot? Was it all like on multiple trips or just like a few trips?
Yeah, so it was basically all multiple trips. All of them were rifle shot. Some of the birds, I believe, had been just kind of found
Yeah,
and
wow.
picked up. There were, artifacts from, African tribes. There was bits and pieces. There was an elephant skin gun case that he had made.
Wow.
Um, just yeah. So it was a whole story, and I'm yet to actually sit down with his son or try and sit down with him himself if I can get the time and go through everything because I love hearing the stories. I love it.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Crazy that literally across the road from you, right? You moved in.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good omen.
Well, yeah, so there used to be a taxidermist that lived here in Arachula by the name of Mick Dillinger.
No way.
And yeah, I think a lot of people might know his work, but yeah, I think he's moved to the States now, but I'd love
Okay.
to flick him a message sometime, be like, hey, I moved into your place.
Did you actually move into his house or?
No, so it's not his house. Where he lived was probably maybe 700 meters down the road.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
about, so you're on one end and here's the other end of Arachula. That's what you're saying, right?
yeah, pretty much.
That's about all there is of Arachula, isn't there?
Yeah, just about. No, we have a couple of good servos and
Yeah,
a hell of a pub. So if you ever swing through Arachula, stop at the pub. It ain't bad.
good. Good. It's good to know.
I'll give them a shameless plug because I've eaten there more times than I care to say.
That's good. And so hunting side of things for you, getting out for a few ruts now, and obviously having pretty good deer country around you. What have you done with the bow? Anything you want to talk about? Any stories you want to tell?
Um, well, the first one was this rut just gone. Me and my mate got out and we spent 4 days walking around the block. And it seems that everyone, I don't know if you had the same experience, but just a really weird rut this year. Just a
100%. Yeah.
a proper strange rut. So we had maybe 2 days where they roared for about an hour,
Mm.
and that was it. Um, but we just drove out one morning. We were heading into a spot where we'd park up and walk up the mountain. And we saw one deer in the headlights, flicked everything off and thought, all right, we'll just sit and wait. I let out a roar. He roared back, and we basically walked from the car, walked up this little drainage and started going up the hill. And we stopped here and I let out a couple more roars and he roared again and pushed up a little bit further. And I've turned to my mate because he started to really go off. And I've gone, he hasn't made any noise for a while. And then maybe about 15 meters away from us, we just hear a click. Like, oh. And there he is. He comes up out of this drainage right behind a lantana bush. And so my mate's over my shoulder with nearly got his tongue in my ear. He's like, draw back, hurry up. So I pull back. I'm standing at full draw. This thing, he comes just out of the lantana there. He's maybe 12 meters. And I'm looking at him, and it was just on that cusp where it's not quite dark, but it's not quite light.
Mm.
And I just couldn't confidently see where my pins were through my peep sight.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's all that really did me. So I had maybe a 2 second window to actually pull the trigger and get the job done. But I wasn't confident because I physically couldn't see my pins.
Definitely. Yep.
And he just looked straight at us and just bolted.
It's a heartbreak, isn't it?
Oh mate, it
At,
hurt.
at the same time, it's amazing that you had the control to not shoot at that point and just go, okay, well, I can't see, so I don't have a clear shot. I'm just going to hold it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was hearing it from him, mate, the whole time. He's like, you could have taken the shot. You could have done it. And I'm like, shut up. I know, but it was just something in the back of my head that said, if you cannot guarantee that this thing's going to end up on the ground, then do not shoot.
Yeah.
And that was something that I'd pretty much heard from listening to your stuff and, the episodes that you've done with Kev and Ian and all those boys and just chatting to them. And yeah, basically I got told the same thing over the butchering weekend that we did. And
Definitely.
it was like, if you're not confident, don't shoot, because the last thing you need is this animal ending up on a public road somewhere with an arrow sticking out of it, because
Mhm.
that's not doing anyone any good.
Exactly. And I mean, it's a good code to live by in the sense of the better success you set yourself up for, obviously, by being more disciplined on that front end, the more likely you are to have multiple animals down anyway. And it's going to be a lot less heartache. Like I've shot goats and it's not gone well and it's been horrible. Like the outcome of that was absolutely like it's something you then live with for a long time and it plays in your head. You're like, God damn it. And some people be like, oh, it's just a goat. But really, as someone coming into bow hunting later in life and seeing that, I was like, oh, that's horrible. Like, it's not something that I want
Yeah.
it to be. And so, yeah, if you can learn from other people's mistakes and not have to go through that, then yeah, by all means, it's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And that's it. Like at the end of the day, no one wants to see something
No.
suffer. It doesn't matter if it's a goat or just a stinking old pig. No one wants to see an animal sitting there squealing or,
Mm,
struggling or anything like that. That's why we do what we do, because we're careful with what we do. We're methodical with what we do. We train
exactly.
how we do it.
Yeah. A
So
lot of time and effort
that's
into it.
actually interesting, because during this last ride, I managed to get out to chase some fallow.
Mm.
And I took a shot at a goat out there, and I thought everything was all sweet, but I just used the wrong pin. He was sitting at
Oh,
32. I used the 20-yard pin
yeah.
and just straight underneath him. And I'm like, oh, the sun was just, oh.
Oh no. I actually had a similar situation where I was sitting on I was sitting on the roof because we had grain we're feeding the cattle grain. The pigs would come in and push the cows off of the grain every night. It was just bound to happen. And so we sat on the roof of the shed and I had my arrows and sorry, I had my bow and arrow and I was sitting on the shed and it was completely pitch black. And they're like, we'll turn the light on and you take a shot. And so I'm drawn back, I'm holding like roughly where this pig is, and
Yeah.
they've turned the light on and I can't see anything. I can't see shit. I'm like, I can't see. And they can't hear me. And I'm like, I guess I'll try to take a shot. Completely just didn't go anywhere near this pig. Thank God. But then they couldn't get a shot on it either because it ran so far off into the distance. They're like, well, we just sat here for an hour for nothing. They're like,
Thanks, Matty.
yeah, exactly. Thanks for your bow, mate. But since then, I've regained trust with my hunting. It just took a while. No, but it is. I think it's a lot more rewarding. And the amount of times when I have not taken a shot and I've gone, oh, maybe I should have. Maybe, oh, but what
Yeah.
if? And you're like, you know what? It doesn't matter because and it takes a while to get past that what if stage. But when you do get to the other side, you're like, at least I didn't injure an animal. At least it's going to live. It's going to have another day. Or maybe I'll come across it next time I'm out here. And I think it's just a nice, yeah, like I said, the what ifs play on you for probably an hour, whereas an injury, believe me, it plays on you for days, if not months. So it's so worthwhile just making sure that you do it right.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. And I've made plenty of poor shots on animals where I thought everything was sweet, and it's just the universe had different ideas. And
Mm,
it's not, I've grew up dogging pigs. I
mm,
know, that can be a bit harsh for some people. They see that and, oh, Jesus, that's a bit rough. But nothing prepares you for making a poor shot on something and having to track that thing for hundreds of meters, knowing that, yeah, it's going to die, but it's going to be slow and painful. And when you finally do find it, you put that thing out as quick as possible. And it's just like, yeah, you think about it constantly, and it almost wrecks your confidence in actually being able to take the shot.
definitely. Yeah, I mean the other thing is the goats with drinking water and how much they can push their vitals forward in a sense. I've definitely had a shot on a goat, and this was kind of one of the big situations where they go down, they drink a heap of water, they drink so much water that their bellies fill up so much, and then their vitals move so much, right, with that pressure of the belly. And
It's
so you
like,
really have to like you have to be aware of that when you're taking a shot, depending on how big their belly is at the time and how much water they've essentially drank. So that's something just to keep in mind as well. Like, yeah, you do almost have to shoot further, not further forward. Well, I guess it is.
Yeah,
It is. It's like that little bit further forward, depending on where you usually would shoot from. So that's
yeah.
yeah, another thing just to keep your mind on. If you're hunting goats. Goats are so much fun to hunt. I thoroughly enjoy hunting goats. I think it's just because I don't do much of it. Um, but anytime I get
I
the
can't wait to
chance,
get back out.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's so good. And I mean, down where you live, you're very close to good goat country, right?
I haven't seen a whole lot. So out towards Warwick there's a few out on the backside of Warwick there, but I haven't really
Mhm.
got any places out there to hunt. So my big goat block that I recently went to with a mate, it's his block, and it's down way past Torrington,
Okay,
and that's deep fallow country through there. And then
definitely.
may have the possibility of another block. It's just a hell of a drive west.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean, like, I would think Tenterfield and that sort of area, Tenterfield, Stanthorpe, all of that should have pretty good goat country. I would think. It's just once again, it's always getting access is the hard thing. But obviously, New
Yeah.
England, the whole New England, it's great for goats and fallow if you can get down there.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's a beautiful area too. Like that was half the fun of that entire hunt was me driving back because I'm a fiend for just looking at hills and going, I wonder what's over that. That looks so
Definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
And it's just that wanderlust, and you drive down there, and because there's no trees on the hills in some of those spots, and you're just seeing hill after hill after hill after hill, and you go, I wonder what's over that.
Mm,
What's over there? Is there anything there I could hunt?
definitely, dude. I remember we went to Europe. When was that?
Oof.
We went to Europe and England. Must have been 2017 or something, but it was kind of like uh must have been later because I'd already gotten into hunting, I think. And so
Yeah.
we were driving, we'd have other people driving us, or you'd be whatever it was, but I was always just consistently looking over their hills. I'm like, where's the animals at? Like, when's
Yeah.
something going to happen? And we're in England, and sure enough, a roe deer spat out,
Oh,
ran around this field, and then came straight back in. I was like, no way, that's the deer. And I had no
that's
idea what
awesome.
sort of, yeah, I had no idea what sort of
And
deer
you
it
kind
was
of
or anything.
around the car. Did everyone see that?
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone.
exactly. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's deer here, right? To the driver. And they're like, I think so. I'm like, get educated.
What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, but I remember because we had our podcast, our health and fitness podcast. I remember talking to one of the athletes that we went and visited, and he was a hunter, and so we got talking heaps about hunting on this podcast. And
All right.
they hunt. This was in Sweden when we are in there, and he had hunted like moose and stuff through there. So yeah, because they've got moose and they've got a fair
Yeah.
few other animals over in Sweden. So he'd done all of that, but I'm pretty certain bow hunting was illegal in Sweden.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah,
think it was,
right.
yeah, I think it'd been banned. I'm not sure if it still is or what the deal was, but yeah, and I just have like glimpses of that and memories of that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're
Yeah,
talking
right.
about health and fitness and CrossFit, and I'm like, so tell me about this hunting stuff.
Well, it's a big thing over in Europe. A lot of people like don't really think of Europe as one of especially like the UK is the big kind of hunting area, but there's so much there.
Definitely. Yeah, I actually, now we're talking about it, seen so much taxidermy in like a Lifeline style store over there,
Yeah.
whatever their equivalent is. But I remember going into it and just going, wow, like seeing the amount of history that was in this one shop of this, yeah, incredible taxidermy stuff that was all throughout it. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I think we spent an hour there and we're just in the middle of the town, like in the middle of the city. I'm just looking at that rather than going looking at churches and shit.
Yeah, that'd be me. I'd be wandering around looking in the museums and everything like that, just fangirling over everything they have in there.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely cool. Moose antlers are just so cool when you see them, like the size of those
Yes.
paddles. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's nuts. It really is nuts. So no, I've got my list of critters I want to get from England, Europe, and all that. So
Hmm.
big one is muntjac and Chinese water deer. I am set on them.
Amazing. The Chinese water deer, are they the ones with the fangs?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that instead of antlers, they've literally got like vampire fangs,
Yeah.
and like the coats are just incredible. Because I've worked with a couple with a mate, just helping him out with the skins and that. and they are just incredibly soft. I can't express how ridiculously soft they are. They're
That's awesome.
basically a teddy bear deer, but a
Like
vampire teddy bear.
like a rabbit fur deer type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just stupidly soft.
Yeah, wow. That's so interesting. You wonder why, right? Like I often think about, okay, you think a rooster hide versus a fallow hide, and it's just like a straw.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, horrible thing to touch. Essentially, the rooster it feels like a pig in a sense versus a fallow. And
Hmm.
obviously, it's because of the places they lived in originally, but then they haven't necessarily evolved much from where they live now here in Australia. For instance, like you see a deer here in Australia, a fallow deer, and obviously they still kind of flock to the areas where they're going to have similar similar climates, but I've gone hunting in Kilcoy where there's fallow deer, and they're no different in the hides compared to the hunting down in Tamworth where it's incredibly cold. And I know it does get hot there as well, but it's just very interesting to see. It doesn't get as cold up near Kilcoy and that sort of area. They're never in as extremes, but they haven't had to evolve. They haven't had to change based on the climates they're living in.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that's the thing. Like you look at some of the animals that are here, like the spread of what they've done, and yeah, they haven't really evolved much, but they've only been here 120 to
Yeah, exactly.
150 years,
Not
if
long enough
that.
to have to change. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you think about it like that, like just the spread that they have done in that small amount of time, and
Mm.
especially red deer, like they're up and down the whole East Coast, they're everywhere.
Hmm.
And you know, what was it 18? Oh, come on, 1870. I think the first ones we brought over was what 1840 to 1870.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And yeah, just the spread that they've taken over, the amount of country that they've taken over, and yet they're still a right pain in the ass to find.
I mean,
So
the other impressive one is the Samba because they're pretty widespread now, I believe.
yeah, I've heard they're starting to move up a lot further into New South.
Yeah, like you'll find them in New England now.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I actually there's a paid block that I've gone to a few times, and there was a picture that was oscillating around the closed group, like members group, and it was a picture of a sandbar. I mean, it looked dead set like a sandbar. It was a fair way off, so it wasn't like that's 100% a sandbar, but
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I'm 90% sure. And there was a few people I talked to about it that also saw it. And they
Yeah.
were like, yeah, that was a sandbar on this block, and that's at like the top of the New England. Like, okay, that's pretty crazy.
Huh.
Yeah. So there you go. The
Like one of
first
those a picture of the Fjordland mutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, is it? Is it not?
It's what's the other one? The Tassie Tiger. One of
Hmm.
those again round. So the first red deer to reach Australia were probably the six that Prince Albert sent in
Yep.
1860 from
I was in the middle. I'd say
yeah, you did
1840 to
well.
70.
Windsor Great Park to Thomas Churnside. There you go.
Yeah.
Southwest of Melbourne in Victoria. Further introductions were made into New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia. Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard there's actually some really good hunting over in Western Australia when it comes to deer, which I thought that place was nearly a barren wasteland filled with goats and donkeys.
Man, I was talking to someone during the rut, and they were hunting literally like on the beach. Essentially, they were hunting reds through this sandy country that was going then into the dunes and into the grass and stuff that they would live on. So it was cool. Like he was sending me photos and footage the whole time throughout it. And there's literally snippets of it where he's like, have you ever seen a deer in the sand? And it's literally just this deer on this big old sand dune in the middle of nowhere. You're like, what the heck? Like it just seems
Yeah, it
so
just
bizarre.
blends in so well.
Yeah. I just thought it was so cool to kind of see that as a concept, right? It's not often that you get to see, I guess, deer and beaches, let alone be hunting them on them, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like I wouldn't say it was a beachfront. That's probably misleading. But yeah, essentially sand dunes is what he was hunting on. I'm like, wow, it's pretty interesting.
And that's completely different. You go from us hunting like, the muddy mountains out this way,
Hmm.
you know, chasing deer on a beach. That's just, you imagine trying to sneak up on that, it'd be hell. Or even hunt camels out west. That's something I'm really looking forward to that might happen in the coming months.
Ah, cool.
I'm trying to
Yep.
organise a hunt with a few guys to head out west and possibly smack some big old Western Queensland camels.
Freaking oath, man. That's actually pretty high on my list as well, the old camel. I've just been
That's
told
good to know.
they
I'll
eat
add you to the mailing
incredibly.
list.
Yeah, yeah. Well, apparently they're just such good eating. I'm like, I'm so pumped to do that.
They are. I
Yeah.
can tell you now, camel, like cow camel backstrap,
Hmm.
is, I would nearly say, on par with, I've had Wagyu, but this stuff was like, I'll send you the picture later so you can chuck it up, but marbled perfectly.
Yeah, wow.
If you had this thing come through a butcher shop, anyone would look at it and be like, oh, that's 100%, that's got to be Wagyu. Look at that. Like, no, it's camel. It's just camel
Hmm.
backstrap.
That's crazy. That's so good. And so that would just be bow hunting?
Yep.
Very cool.
Goats, camels, donkeys, and hopefully anything else we can find.
Yeah, wow. There was a guy in Western Australia that had a podcast for a while. I don't remember the name of the podcast. I just remember listening to an episode that he had. It was a hunting podcast, and he raved about donkey meat. He absolutely raved about it. He's like, it's crazy
Yeah.
how good eating they are. I was like, wow, there you
I've,
go.
I've heard that. I don't know how game I am to try it,
I
but
know, right?
I'll try anything once if I can get one on the ground.
$20 is $20, eh? No, yeah, he raved about it, man. He even said he converted his ute over, I believe, so he could have a big old winch on it. Not
Yeah,
a winch,
right.
like a crane, so he could literally hang these donkeys on the spot to be able to carve them out wherever he was hunting them in the middle of Western Australia. So
Yeah, right.
you'll have to be my guinea pig, maybe.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, don't quote me. I'll see how we go. If the timelines all work out, you might be able to. I reckon I could squeeze you into me ute and we could get out there.
Excellent. Yeah, well, timelines. That's the big part. That's always the hardest part with hunting, isn't it?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, tying into everyone's family life and whatever else, it's always a tough thing.
Yeah.
But I am excited to hunt camel one day, so please do keep me in the loop.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah. Oh, we're all heading out there. Basically, we'll take a couple of guns in case we come across some big pigs that we need a bit more reach. But for the most part, I'm just keen to take the bow and just get whatever I can on the ground.
Definitely. I'm actually I'm taking my dad out for his first hunt this weekend. I'm so excited for it. But
Oh, that's awesome.
he's just got into like he's just bought himself a gun, and it's like I don't know, for a long time, dad hasn't had like any hobbies as such. And so it's really cool to see him take passion to this.
Yep.
And the amount of time and effort he's put into researching to getting his gun, and he's getting himself a day and night scope and stuff. I'm like, fuck, he's going all out. Like he's going crazy on
Damn.
it. But we're gonna go out hunting this weekend, and I'm actually going to try to get up early so I can go out for a walk with my bow, because otherwise I'm not going to get to it all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, if I can get there early enough on Friday, I can go out for a pretty decent hunt Friday with my bow, and then the rest of
Yep.
the weekend will just be dedicated to trying to get dad something with the gun. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you mainly chasing goats or pigs with that, or?
That's deer. That's all chasing deer. Yeah.
Oh, mate, that'd be awesome. That
Yeah.
that.
I'm
that.
excited because he's very interested in the butchering side of things. It's very interesting because his wife is vegetarian slash vegan. Like vegan, I would say, no, more so vegetarian. She eats dairy, she'll eat eggs, she'll eat maybe a little bit of fish. So more so pescatarian maybe, but
Okay.
doesn't go anywhere near red meat or anything. And so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like dad's getting into it. What's he going to be doing with the meat? And he's like, oh, I'm going to be taking it back. Like I'll take a little bit for me, I'll take some for some friends, and then a lot of it I'll pass on to my sister. I'm like, okay, great. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't understand, like, oh, what do you do with all the meat? Well, it's like, I don't take it all. The amount of meat that me personally, I've given away in the last couple of months with some of the animals that I've put on the ground,
Mhm.
like, I've given meat to probably three or four of my mates. My dad's taken a heap. Like, we've
Mhm.
kept a heap. I've given a heap to a few other just random people that have showed up. Like,
Definitely.
customers that bring stuff in, they're like, oh, I've always wanted to try that. And I'll just go into the freezer. Here,
Yeah.
you
Try
go.
this. Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm much the same. Our neighbors all get a fair bit, which is always
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, we're going on a little
that's the
walk,
thing.
and I'm like, here you go.
Yeah,
Like, what the heck?
yeah.
Try my
Well, when you're
meat.
not paying like 40, $50 a kilo for, all this meat, you can kind of afford to be a lot more generous with it. And a lot of people
Definitely.
aren't used to having, someone just walk past and be like, oh, hey, would you like some?
Yeah.
You see oh, oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I also give bones out to all the neighborhood dogs. I'll check with the owners first, but I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
you got a
just
dog? I'm
walking
like,
through, just
yeah,
yeet bones everywhere.
exactly. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have enough freezer space. Does your dog like me? No, I like bones. I'm like, yeah, I'll take some bones. And so that's always nice as well.
Yeah.
And so what, obviously you said camels, donkeys, goats on the cards. What else is on the cards in regards to your own hunting?
One, obviously the Reds, I love them that much. They're just awesome, amazing creatures.
Mm,
But yeah, so mainly that and pigs, just my bread and butter are just pigs.
yeah,
Yeah, they're just fun to hunt. They're fun to
they are.
mount, awesome to look at. They're fun to watch. Watching a family group of pigs work their way through an area
Mhm.
and just seeing how they go about their lives is just cool. So,
I mean, especially if there's a sow on heat, just watching the boys and the way that they
oh,
react, and that everyone just swarms this girl, and it's like the hot girl in a bar with all these delinquents trying to get after her, right?
yeah,
Like, it's just like I'll fight you for it. It's just
yeah,
funny to watch.
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've got. That's a lie. I was gonna say I don't know if I've got a hierarchy of animals in the sense of what I've hunted, which is a lie because I definitely like the deer are still a pinnacle for me, right? It's still
Yeah.
always like, okay. But I still love hunting pigs. I love hunting goats. I love hunting. Heck, give me a field of rabbits. I'll be stoked.
Oh yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like that was pretty much what I cut my teeth on when I first started bow hunting. Was I was like I think it was like 15 or so when I got my first bow, or I started using my first bow. It was my brother's bow that he got, and then I just kind of pinched it off him. And yeah, I just started going down, and I still remember the first hare that I got, and just I think it was more luck than anything. I hit this thing perfectly through the shoulder and I pinned it to the friggin' it was like a mound of dirt behind it and I just straight through
Yeah, wow.
and it kind of scurried for a sec and then just and dropped. And I was just I, I did it.
It happened.
I did it. I took it up and I was so pleased with myself when I walked up to the house and I'm Dad, look what I did. And he goes, oh, okay, cool. What are you going to do with it? And I was just like, oh, oh, oh. Well, I was excited.
Yeah, yeah. That's so good. I actually am a massive fan of hare meat as well. That's good. If you haven't tried that before, it's well
Yep,
worth doing the
good.
Kentucky fried hare. It's very good.
I generally do a stew. I'll pretty much
Yeah,
always do
okay.
a stew with them. I
Yep.
just I grew up trying like eating just about everything I could,
Hmm.
and my parents were always like, ugh, what are you eating dirty old hare? What's wrong with you? Like we're having steak for dinner. Why are you eating hare? It's like because I killed it. I
Yep.
butchered it. This is my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Um,
I didn't discover the cooking side until much later.
yeah.
Until I
Oh,
really
it's
oh,
underrated.
mm,
But yeah.
definitely. Um, and so actually going back to like the taxidermy side of things, how much of it is it kind of like pre-shaped and pre-formed? Because I know you obviously you can buy like a red deer mount, which is the shape of the red deer, and then you then have to do the engravings and whatever of it, like of the sculpting of the face as such. How much of that is yeah? How much of it is pre-done versus how much do you have to do now?
Well, basically, so modern taxidermy is a hell of a lot easier than they had it.
Mm,
So we're not, just stuffing things full of wood wool and hoping that it actually comes out looking somewhat like an animal.
yeah.
So, excuse me. This
No,
is
this one you
essentially
prepared
what,
earlier.
yeah, as you can see, this is a fallow deer that we offer.
Yeah.
And you can see that has all the face detail that you'll need, nose detail and everything like that. But you can still go through and add your own detail where you want. So you've still got to carve out the section for the eyes, carve out the nose, the mouth. You can add a Roman nose if you've got, very special kind of fellow, anything like that. There's so much you can do because this is just a basis. This is just to make your life easier.
Yeah.
Then from there, you can go wild with it. You can add a different nose on if you want. You can completely carve that out. You can add completely different eyes, any detail in the neck. So where the goiter is there, you can build that up if you want. So essentially, that's your starting point.
What is it? What's it made out of?
So that's just a hard expanding foam.
Okay.
It's just got a piece of plywood in the back there, so you can screw a hanger to, and you can staple the skin to when you mount it.
Yeah.
Piece of plywood in the top of the head there that you screw the antlers to.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, it's just a liquid, like a part A, part B. You mix them together, pour it in, it'll start to set and rise. Screw this little cap on the back end of the mold, and then that's it. It'll just blow itself, and in half an hour, you can unbolt that, and you've got one of these ready to go.
Yeah, wow. And then in regards to you actually shaping it and making it different, do you use files? Is it what's the system that you use for reshaping them?
You can use files, so your big chunky bastard files, sandpaper, really any kind of modeling tool or saw or anything like that. So especially with these, so these pigs, they started off just as a small little kind of half turn thing.
Yep.
And then I went through, I turned the neck further, I added more to it, I added more to the shoulder to give it that look as if it's like a big fighting pad. I added that big sweep to the back and, sculpted all the leg detail to try and show off more of that stump. So both of these pigs were basically completely custom jobs, and that all started from just that basic little turn all the way up to what they are now.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can definitely still make them your own depending 100% on what you want. So we can work with our customers as to, where's it going in your house? Which way would you like it turned? Would you like it turned more? Would you like it turned less? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's nice to have it pre-thought out like that. In regards to your caping and having set something caped ready for what you're doing with it, like obviously if you haven't really thought about, okay, am I going to do a half mount or just a shoulder mount or whatever? Essentially, do you just kind of say get as much of the cape as you can as a just in case?
So my basic, if you're only thinking whether you want a shoulder or a pedestal, generally just dead in half. Just front leg, back leg, right there. Just down. Normally it's around your pizzle area.
Yep.
Just do a ring there, do your cut, and then round your hocks off, cut down the back, and just tube it forward from there. Oh, excuse me. That will give you enough for pretty much anything shoulder mount, pedestal mount, whether it be wall pedestal or floor pedestal. That'll give you more than enough to work with, as a taxidermist. So we can always cut more off. We just, it's a lot harder to add more on than it is.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because you can still add more on. That is possible. It is just an absolute nightmare, and it will cost you more than you are willing to pay. So just give us what we need to work with.
I mean, especially with something unique like that ginger boar behind you, right? Like ginger with some black spots through it. It's not a very typical color that you're going to come across. Like, yes, you see them, but you don't see them. There's not every pig. A black pig, okay, that's going to be a little bit easier to be able to source and find some of that stuff. But still, not easy, right? To just pull skin out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's where I was lucky with these ones. So this guy, he had enough of an idea on what he was doing to be able to be like, okay, I'll give this a go and I'll do my best. And with this black pig, the skin still had the tail on it.
Yeah, wow.
When he took that much of the skin, it still had the tail on it when he dropped it off.
Yeah.
And he was coming in from Dirranbandy, and I was able to meet him at Toowoomba because I had some things to do in Toowoomba at the time. We worked together on when we could work it out. And I just said, look, I'll be in Toowoomba on this date. If you can get into there on this date, then, sweet, we'll make it work. I met him up there. So it's always something we can work out too. I'm happy to meet people places to collect things if they want them mounted.
Yeah.
I'm happy to wake up at some stupid hour, not too stupid, to help people out, because this is something that has consumed my life for nearly 2 decades. I absolutely love this stuff. And it excites me every time that I hear someone go, I got something on the ground. My heart goes, "Us, us, us," and I'm like, yes, good job.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah.
What was the first, like, I know you said you started doing Euros and stuff, but like, was there a book or something you watched or something that came about first that was like oh, that's interesting about taxidermy?
Yeah. So it was my cousin Tyrone. He used to be massive in his pig, and I think he still is. I haven't spoke to him for a few years now. But I remember going to my uncle's place one day, and Tyrone had just gotten this big pig done up as a shoulder mount. And I think I was probably 8 at the time. And I walked down into his basement where Tyrone was living, and I looked up on the wall, and at first I was like, ah! And then I just looked at it, and I must have looked at that thing for ages, just staring at it, looking at every little detail, like, this is cool, this is awesome. And I asked so many questions about it. And from there, it just kind of exploded. It was something that was on my mind more than anything. I was just like, this is cool. How do I do this?
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, to this day, I'll still remember walking down those steps, and I was like, "Da, da, da, da." I was going to play with his Legos because he had this massive Lego collection. He had like a giant tub. I was like, get to the bottom of the stairs, and I turn left, and I'm just like, ah! And just a pig coming out of the wall at me, and, that's what kicked it off.
Yeah,
And
wow.
yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. My talking of actually my dad and my stepmom, the one who is now vegetarian, like, she was actually looking into being a taxidermist. She was very interested in the bird side of thing in particular.
Yep.
And she would find, I believe she said she would find dead birds and she would start trying to like stuff them and make her own variations of them. And she did like a fair bit of it. And essentially she just found it very therapeutic and, I guess, a way of giving them back another life, in a sense. That was her concept of it. So
Yeah.
she didn't go down that route, but I just found it very interesting for someone that I only ever met her once she was vegetarian. I was like, to hear that she wanted to do that side of it, I was like, what? Like, you want to be taxidermist, but you're on that side? I'm like, huh? That didn't quite make sense to me. And then once we talked it out, I was like, oh, of course it does. But yeah, I do always find it fascinating bringing people into my office, because this is my office where I'm talking to you, and then seeing the stack of collections that I've got of different Euro mounts and different collections, different things I've got. Like, I've got a whole heap of feathers and stuff over here that I've sourced as I've been out hunting and stuff. And it's like, it's my little piece of the wild brought into my office where I sit on a computer all day. So I like bringing people in here and just seeing their reactions to it. So many people are like, wow, like, holy, what is this? And tell me all about it. Some people are like, oh, there's a lot of death. Like, what's going on in there? And it's just interesting to see the different concepts of what everyone has to say, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it all depends on, whether you walk in, you go, oh wow, that's a lot of death. And they have that kind of retractive where I've always tried to explain to people. So I've had many, I'd say, almost on the verge of argumentative conversations with people about it, because I'm not just a taxidermist or anything like that. I'm a collector too. I love just, if I find something out bush, I'm like, that's cool. I'm gonna pick it up and take a cool stick, cool rock. That's a bone. Mine now. But I look at it as it's all just part of nature, and that's what gets me so excited about it, is the fact that no one else, these pigs on the wall, no one else had anything to do with these animals.
Yeah.
No one cared about them. No one looked at them. No one wanted them. Then this bloke went out and they meant something to him because this was the last time he hunted a paddock on his property before it got basically sold.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is he looking at these going, those are cool pigs, he's looking at it going, those are the last pigs that I ever got off this property. Those, and then from that, it brings back a flood of memories about the property or about the time or about the area.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not just the memory of the animal itself or the respect for that animal. It's the memories that tag along with it, because it only takes one little nugget of information for your brain to be like, hey, remember all of this?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love that about it. And that's why I
Definitely.
still love hearing the stories. I'll stand and talk with someone for 1 or 2 hours just talking about, hey, how'd you get this? Where'd you get it from? This is
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I'm not asking where'd you get it from as in, oh, I'll have to hunt there sometime. It's I want to know everything about what happened because I thrive off that kind of stuff. And their
Definitely.
energy is just like, yes.
It's funny because, like, literally, as you were going through that, I started thinking about all the different heads and stuff that I've got here, and started going through the stories of each one. It's not just the stories of the animals, but it's the people behind it as well. Then, because
Yeah,
like many of these have only happened because I've been able to hunt on. I've been invited to go on a hunt with a person, and then all of a sudden I've got the memory of them, and that whole weekend is like it just
yeah,
brings back in that thought process of that, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. To think of something that some people might turn their nose up as being just like this incredible source of memories and adventures that we've been able to have.
yeah, exactly. And that's something that we have access to that no one else does.
Mm,
It's just those memories of spending incredible times with your mates, and, with your family, like taking my son out for his first rut was this rut. And my mate had one of those little Instax cameras with him.
yeah.
And yeah, he managed to snap a picture of me and my young fella whilst we were just kind of out the back. We just come back from the morning hunt. And, those are memories you keep with you forever. And
Definitely.
you look back at those pictures and you're not thinking we were out there to kill animals. It's we were out there to spend time together, and it was awesome. I
Mm.
absolutely loved it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm very excited about this weekend because Dad and I really haven't spent heaps of time together for years. And so
Yeah,
now for him to be getting into something that I really enjoy doing and that I already go away for on weekends, and it's like, hey, well, let's go to our family block together and actually spend some time. Like, it's really cool for that to kind of come back around and be this thing that I think we'll be able to connect on even more over time, which is awesome.
yeah. It's kind of gone full circle from him telling you to hold the flashlight to now you're telling him to hold
Yeah, exactly.
it.
So I am very intrigued to see how it goes, the son being the teacher.
You'll
Yeah.
do awesome, mate.
Yeah, I've done plenty of coaching before, so it should be fine, hopefully. We have to get one down first, otherwise it's all or
Well,
nothing. And so in regards to the taxidermy side of things, the shed's all being built, the office is being built right now, essentially. Like, you're in full operations, but you're there to stay, really. Like, Aratrill is the new home of Riverleigh Taxidermy, right?
100%, mate. We are going to be here for as long as the sun is shining.
Good. And then do you have any you said something about the Longhorn before. How did that come about, actually?
Oh, so that was actually through a good mate of mine. He called me up one day and he did some work for a bloke who had a bunch of longhorns.
Hmm.
And he just goes, hey, look, I've got this bloke. He wants something done. Can you do it? I said, sweet. I'll drive out there. I'll see what the go is. We'll have a chat for a bit. Drove out there. This guy's mad as a cut snake. Old boy from the territory. He's only got one leg. He's just, you know, for lack of a better word, batshit crazy, but best bloke you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he breeds these longhorns, and he just wanted a few of them mounted. So I did one for him. Went through, polished all the horns and everything on it.
Amazing.
Took a Bantang form, and I modified it to suit longhorn. So
Mm.
Resculpted all the top of the head, thinned the neck down, like did all the custom work that I possibly could to it to make it look right. Got it back to him, and his words were, "If I'm not happy, you'll know about it because you won't be leaving the property." I'm like, "Cool, hope you're happy." Took it back to him, and he was chuffed. And he
Yeah,
says, "We're doing the
amazing.
next one in a couple of weeks." Cool.
How
And
good.
yeah, we ended up knocking over two that weekend, and the biggest one was, I'm pretty sure it was around 2.3 meters tip to tip.
Whoa. That's
Just
ridiculous, hey. That's so
yeah.
cool how they just walk and just maneuver through
Oh
things,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. But this big boy that he had, the real big old boy, he had this big, massive Roman nose on him. He was just bulked up, skinny through the neck, but just bulked up at the shoulder. So I was looking at that, and I'm taking photos of him as he's walking up the hill towards where the butcher, local fellow's real good bloke, one of me, real good mates.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, he's like walking up the hill. And I'm sitting there just spamming the photo button on my
Yeah,
phone, taking as many photos as possible because that's something that'll help me kind of build that creature again.
definitely.
I take as many photos as I can.
I
So
find it so surprising that his neck was thin, right? With those big ass horns on him,
yeah,
you'd think you'd
like
need to
deep,
have like thick, yeah.
super, super deep, bloody
Yeah.
neck. But yeah, the neck would only been that wide. At
Mm.
best, maybe, 14 inches wide.
Yeah.
So skinny, skinny neck, but just strong. Just,
Mm.
yeah. That, but no. So yeah, I got two more of them to do, and then I'm into my pigs, and then I'm into my deer, and then back into a few other pigs, and then we'll see what comes in after that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, one day I'll have Frank the Tank to bring to you. I'll bring him on down, and it'll
Oh,
be a very happy day of my life.
mate, I expect you to come rolling through that gate with tears in your eyes.
Oh, I probably will be.
I got
No
him.
way. Yeah.
I got him.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure
you
that.
come close to him last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't even see him this
Last
year,
year, did you?
though. No, it was last year. Yeah, this year I didn't even see him. I heard, I think what was him up in the top of this hills, like in the thickest stuff that is like jungle that you just can't even get into.
Yeah,
But yeah, very same to you. Just had a very odd rut this year where it just wasn't firing up as much as what it usually is. So
yeah,
I think next year I'll probably spread my rut out a little bit more and go maybe beginning in almost do weekends if you can do something like
yeah,
that. Just to I don't know. Based on what I've talked to many people, this is something that happens just every few years where the rut is just a little bit off. But
yeah,
talking to a lot of people as well, they also said, you know what, but there's always some of the days where it'll overlap and it will be amazing. So for instance, the 11th or the 15th or whatever that date is, if you
yeah,
can be there around that time for those critters in particular, it just seems to always be firing. So if you can really figure out what that is, but the thing is, I've never spent a whole month out there hunting my red blocks. So I don't know what it's like over the whole month. So
yeah. Well, that's something I'm looking forward to is actually having the time to kind of spend a week in one spot and then a week in another spot and then a week in another,
mhm,
and really try and open myself up to give myself the best opportunity because
definitely.
I think I'd love to try and hit both the red and the fallow at the same time. And there's very few blocks around this area that I know there are blocks that have both of them on it.
Hmm.
Um, but trying to get onto them is a
Tough.
nightmare and a half.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, trying to open ourselves up and moving from spot to spot and
Mhm.
spending basically the whole month out. God love our spouses. They put up with
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now that you're a local boy as well, you become a bit more of a trusted source for the farmers. So that's nice.
that. Yeah. Well, that was interesting being the talk of the town, moving in, and a week after moving into the house, I go up and drop my son off at his first day at school. And the admin girl there, she is, I found out, an absolute mad keen pig hunter.
No way.
And
Oh,
so
cool.
I drop and hey, it's just, he's here for his first day, everything's good. And as I'm walking out, she goes, "Wait, are you the taxidermist that just moved into town?"
That's
Yep, that's me. And
awesome.
yeah, it was all through town. It was all through Boona, and I was like, geez, okay, no, this is feels weird. I feel like I'm being watched, but okay.
Has she brought you any pigs yet?
No, not yet, but my God, she's been getting some good ones.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of pigs, lots of dogs, and lots of deer in this area. So I'm very keen to get out with the bow and see what I can get on the ground.
Definitely, man. Have you ever taxidermied your own animals as such?
I did do a hare a while ago. Not really. I haven't really ever gotten anything. Yeah, apart from that monstrous bloody hare, which was it's probably something that a lot of people wouldn't see as a trophy, but I still did it anyway, just because why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but yeah, I've never really gotten a trophy quality pig or a trophy quality deer or anything like that where I'd be
Would you
like,
do it anyway, do you reckon? Or you do want to wait for the right animal? Because obviously it's still a fair outlay and time and effort and money and all the rest.
um, for the yeah, honestly, I'd probably do it anyway just because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
For the right animal, I would put the extra effort in. So if I was to just shoot, a decent red, I'd
Hmm.
probably do like a wall pedestal or a shoulder. It's a decent red.
Yeah.
But being a taxidermist myself, I can kind of allow myself that extra time to work on stuff.
Mm.
If I was to get a monster red that I have chased for a couple of years, especially up to this block, there's an ultra wide, like a super wide up there, and he is just a beast.
Yeah.
If I get him, I'm doing a full life-size mount. And
Amazing.
my goal is to have a life-size mount of every deer in
Hmm.
Australia that's on offer. I want, ideally to have like one of those trophy rooms that people walk into and they just go,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. Hell, if
Bit.
we can get a decent sized camel on this hunt, I might even do a life size one of them. And there's a couple few
Oh,
work.
that's a yeah, that's a monster. That'd be huge. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome though as well.
Oh yeah.
Well, William, thank you very much for jumping on, man. I do appreciate your time. In regards to your socials, it is Riverleigh_taxidermy. I would suggest everyone jumps across because you're just actually an entertaining dude in general, right? You put out some good content, and I think it's worth jumping across because you get to see snippets of taxidermy stuff, but also you're just entertaining. So it's cool because it's good quality content that you're chucking out there, dude. So I would recommend that everyone jumps across. And then obviously, if you live in the area, you live in the Brisbane Valley, and you're looking for a taxidermist, then I would recommend using William because I'm going to be sending my stuff down to him from here on out.
Cheers for that, brother. It's been awesome coming on, and I look forward to seeing you again. And I'll let you know about them camels.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that. Thanks, bro.
Right, cheers.